Episode 9. A very different episode compared to what we're used to on Torchwood.
We just love the idea of an ordinary guy who's tempted by Torchwood. You know, Torchwood is the most romantic, magical, glamorous world, and he wants a part of it.
Hi. Hi. Okay, what are these?
Look, I've got to go.
Please, these...
It's a very sweet story about, this guy who's obviously a bit of a, I would say nerd reluctantly, but he's got a bad opinion of himself and he's not all that, not much self-esteem. And then he gets sort of dragged into this world which he's so inquisitive about and, investigates his own death. It's quite a sort of moving story, really.
My first impressions about it was how to visualise somebody who's dead and yet not dead, who's there and yet not there. I knew it'd be a big sort of challenge to keep the scenes alive.
Hey, Gwen, Jack, Tosh, the guys at the rope just let me through, so...
I'd say at least 50 miles per hour.
Traveled on the bonnet, bounced, maybe rolled, smashed his face on the road.
Excuse me, that looks a lot like me. Am I dead? Am I dead? Am I dead?
The challenge in Invisible Eugene was to shoot it without making Eugene invisible.
Do you know someone called Eugene Jones?
That's me, mate. That's me.
So that the audience could see him all the time, and there are only one or two moments when actually we show that he is invisible to the characters on screen. So actually I think it was probably quite a tough one for the actors.
Settle, please.
I catch myself doing a scene and looking at Paul and going, not allowed to do that. He's not there.
I think there's some of them are struggling to pretend I'm not there. yeah, I'm getting a lot of sort of glances and looking at me when they shouldn't be.
28 is one of those perfect numbers. It's equal to the sum of its divisors. I'm 28. I was 28.
You've just completely got to kind of focus through him and focus around him and make it look completely natural and, there's a fluidity to it.
Oh, wow. Oh, this is... I am totally... Christ almighty! The head effects are 11!
I'm hovering around them and sort of trying to fit in and trying to be heard and trying to have a voice, but it's really enjoyable to play because it's so unusual. You don't get to do that very often,
Gwen, he had a bit of a thing about you and now you're feeling guilty.
Sod off, Owen.
I am in heaven. Am I?
Part of the trick of not seeing Eugene or having the sense of him dead is that a lot of the tricks that we use, most people wouldn't even notice on the first passing.
It was always written into the script that he would slowly, over the course of the episode, be able to interact a little bit more with things around him.
We just really wanted to give the sense throughout that Eugene was invisible and that you weren't, as a viewer, you won't be conscious of all the decisions that we've made of that, but we wanted it to be subtle so that a few moments where we point it up, you really follow that visually.
They go to his hotel room together, and then there's a wonderful confession where he says to her, "I love you."
I love you. I love you.
And you just get that sense that she's heard something, and she kind of wanders over to where we know he's standing. And she's just standing there looking out of this window. And he blows her hair, and it's just a lovely moment that is sort of building towards the climax of him being able to save her. The director really wanted to do something other than the moment at the beginning when he puts his hand on and then through Tosh, that actually he doesn't interact with anything solid for the entire episode. Every time he walks into a room or every time he walks through a door, somebody else is already leaving. So somebody opens a door to allow somebody else out and Eugene slips through. At the beginning, when he goes underneath the crime tape, the police officer holds it up for another policeman. So he never interacts with anything solid throughout the entire episode until he hits Gwen at the end and saves her.
We had to find a way of making Eugene's death very powerful and very effective.
We had to basically come up with a stunt that made you really feel that's what it's really like, that's death.
Now we cut that.
So what we decided to do is break down the stunt where Eugene was hit by the car, and then he hits the windscreen, flies up in the air, hits the roof of the car, and then hits the ground, which is very much realistically what would happen.
Well, what we've been doing is a car knockdown, which is quite an unusual job.
Here we go.
And the first one is actually a knockdown where the driver comes forward and I smash into the windscreen.
We were doing that at a slightly slowed down speed, which meant that the stuntman would only get as far as the roof of the car and then would roll off safely.
And yeah, it was a bit of a wallop.
For rehearsal, everybody ready?
The third pass involved the stuntman riding on the bonnet of the car, holding on to the roof with his feet on the bonnet and waiting for the moment where he lined up with our camera, where we'd give him a shout, and then he threw himself up in the air and then land on the roof of the car, and you'll see on it the actual roof just dips in about 4 inches. It actually goes boom like that, and then he rolls off. To give the sense of him flying through the air, because obviously he was only jumping off a bonnet onto a roof, the actual spin into the air wasn't necessarily going to be high enough. So what we did is we set the car and we set a trampoline on the ground, and the stuntman times his run so that when the car wipes past camera, he bounces on the trampoline and he spins up in the air, so we see him going higher into the air.
And when they're all cut in the right sequence, hopefully it looks quite special.
What you see is Paul runs out in the road, he gets hit, he hits the windscreen. As he hits the windscreen, the force takes his body up into the air, lands on the roof of the car, causes a dent. As the car drives away, he rolls off the car and rolls off into the ditch where we find him at the beginning of the episode.
I suppose we did conceive Eugene as a bit of a geek in a way.
He was a geek, bit of a dreamer.
He wasn't the best salesman then.
No. Kind of
Irresistible?
ordinary looking.
Yeah.
I'm Eugene Jones, and I've a keen interest in your work.
I remember at one point we were sort of saying, actually, should we change his name? Should we just call him Stephen? Because actually we'd all fallen in love with the name Eugene by that stage. What I like about this show is that actually a lot of the staff, and I include myself, are geeks. So there was no way we would write a geek as an idiot, as anally retentive, as thick.
I like geeks. I think geeks are cool. You know, he is kind of geeky and he is kind of sweet, but he's gentle and he's genuine and he's kind and warm and funny.
You again.
Gwen, I've got this thing I really need to show you. Sorry, that sounded...
An all-round really good guy. And it's, you know, the sadness is that he's about to start his life, really, and then it's...
He's absolutely the outsider until he dies. And then he gets this insight into the world and to the woman that he secretly loved, Gwen.
Thank you. You just saved my life.
That's okay. That's unbelievable. That's unbloody believable.
It's a real showcase, this part. It's a real... He's the centre of the episode. He steals it from all the Torchwood team, and it's lovely.
Out of Time is about emotion, it's about life, it's about displacement, it's also about euthanasia, dare I say.
At least it wasn't a spaceship full of aliens.
That might have been easier. Your aircraft slipped through a transcendental porthole.
It's about 3 very normal people just slipping through time.
Just 3 lost people who've somehow become our responsibility.
Everyone's had their hearts ripped out and exposed, and now actually it's time to get to the heart of Owen.
It's heart-wrenching.
What about me? Please.